Uyghurs in China.
In a report, there are 85 facilities in the Xinjiang region of China, or northwest China, in which an estimated 1 million Uyghurs are being incarcerated. In 2017, the Xinjiang government banned men from growing long beards and women from wearing veils, and thousands of mosques have either been damaged or destroyed in recent years.
So, what can we do to help save the Uyghurs in China? We found a wide variety of solutions, like boycotting watching the Winter Olympics, or calling your senator to sponsor an act that would help stop the abuse of Uyghurs. But what we found were the three best solutions. First, place sanctions on China. Second, expose the conditions of the Uyghurs to the public. And lastly, have sponsors pull out from the 2022 Winter Olympics held in Beijing, China.
Uyghurs identify as citizens of eastern Turkmenistan and want independence from the Chinese government, and this conflict caused tension between the Uyghurs and the Chinese government. They call themselves true patriots, and they claim their protest has risen as struggle for all Turkestan. The rebellion caused the Chinese government to oppress the minority, and these actions toward the Uyghurs led retaliation that China considered as act of terror. So China spent a hefty amount of money to spy and control. In 2017, they spent $8.4 billion, which is 6 times greater compared to 2012, according to the New York Times. These actions are detrimental to the ideal of human rights, and countries should stop China from using its wealth to spread authoritative principles in their borders.
So, exposing the Chinese government for treating the Uyghurs really bad would be one of the best things we could do, because people would try to protest, like in Hong Kong, how they already were trying to get freedom. They would protest the fact that they're treating innocent people like prisoners and people of crime. And if the country protests, the country will get better because it's going to have better people running it and better people controlling it.
So, the social lives of Uyghurs are also being destroyed. They're being tracked on apps like WeChat, and their mosques are being destroyed, which Nathan touched on earlier. A report done by NPR said that China threatens other countries to deport Uyghurs back to China just so that they can be in these labor camps. And an interview done by BBC of freed prisoners who were freed in 2015 said that no one gets released these days, and that there is also physical and psychological torture happening.
When talking about China, it is important to recognize their economic might in the world economy. Based on USA trade data, in 2018, Americans bought $419 billion more goods from China than China bought from the USA. With China making this much of a profit off of exports, this graph wouldn't be surprising. In 2018, exports made up 19% of China's GDP, and at its peak in 2006, exports made up a whole 36% of the GDP. So it is obvious that exports make up their large part of China's economic strength. So when looking at a way to punish China for their crimes against the Uyghur people, it would be smart to attack them economically by placing sanctions. We have a recent and ongoing example of what this could look like with the US-China trade war. In July, August, September of 2018, the US successfully increased tariffs on a total of $250 billion in annual imports of Chinese goods. China responded with tariffs on $110 billion of imports from the US. So as America raised tariffs on China, China retaliated by raising tariffs on America. But as Yun Sun, director of the China program at Stimson Center, wrote, there will have to be a breaking point when the tariffs get too high. At this breaking point, there will have to be a decoupling between the US and China economic relationship, and the relationship essentially have to restart. This restart also applies to placing sanctions on China. This would be very threatening to China, as America is one of the largest consumers of Chinese exports. This fear could then be utilized against China in order to pressure them into freeing the Uyghur people.
So, one of our solutions to this problem is exposure of information. Politically, this is correct because it is not harming any relationship between two countries. Culturally, it is correct because media is a widely accepted form of transferring information. Ethically, it is correct because it is not harming anyone during the process. And economically, it is correct because it is not intervening the well-being of a business or a family.
Right. Concerning the solution of sanctions, politically it would be incorrect because it could harm future economic relationships. Culturally, it would be correct because it is fighting for the rights of the Uyghur people. Ethically, it has pros and cons as it is fighting for the Uyghur people, but due to China's economic strength, it could harm other countries. And economically, it also has pros and cons as it is hurting China economically, but it could also hurt other countries in the process.
And for a final solution, which is having sponsors both from the 2022 Winter Olympics, politically, it is correct because it is a business's decision to pull out of these Olympics and it does not affect a country's relationship with another country. Culturally, it is correct because it does not affect the culture of the Olympics itself. Ethically, it is also correct because it is helping fight for the rights of Uyghurs in China. And lastly, for economics, it is wrong because it hurts the businesses that are pulling out of this Olympics.
So the best solution would be exposure because it gets all check marks in all the boxes, and it would only be hurting China in the end. And especially if this could lead to a civil war in between China and the residents of China, this could be really beneficial to the USA and other countries and to Uyghurs and freeing them.